Welcome back to Mangastorian's Berserk. Today we're going to be covering Chapter 222 onward. And in our last video, Guts and the others set out to rescue Casca and Fardes from the mystical world. While Shirkei led all of the prisoners the trolls had captured to safety, Guts stayed below in the cave's depths to face off against the God-Hand member Slan. Just as Slan was toying and slowly killing Guts, the Skull Knight appeared and saved him at the last moment, revealing his new weapon, the Sword of Renaissance. While everyone makes their way back to the mansion of the Spirit Tree, Flora finishes etching the warding rune into the chest plate, stating that this turned into a much bigger job. As she sets down the hammer, she looks over asking, "It's a bit nostalgic, isn't it?" The Skull Knight looks at the set of armor and he says, "I don't think you know how dangerous this thing really can be." Flora tells him yes she does. That's why she's been watching over it. And if this is how things are going to be, it'll become necessary for those children. The Skull Knight mentions that he fears that the new magic users may repeat the same mistakes, but Flora stops him, stating, "This is by no means a full circle. Those children are not limited to the same path they once followed." But before they could go on, the Skull Knight senses a presence, and Flora says, "They have come." She gets up and steps out onto her balcony and says that it would seem that their spiritual energy has greatly weakened. Her barrier was broken so easily. Without saying a word, the Skull Knight leaps off the ledge down below onto his horse. She asks if he plans on fighting for her, because either way, she will, and the Skull Knight tells her, "If that's the case, let it be peaceful." And Flora quietly says, "Thank you, old friend." Off in the fields, the golems begin to form, and the Skull Knight sees that there is a horde of demons making their way towards the mansion. She then looks up into the skies and says that she just wished that she could have seen her shy, smiling face once more. At that moment, Shirkei notices something, and Serpico asks if there's anything that's the matter. As Ishidoro tumbles by, Shirkei says no. It's just that she thought she felt something from the mistress for a moment. Ivalaria says, "Come on." She's probably just anxious to tell Flora what a good job you've done. And Shirkei says that it's not that at all. All she did was seal the troll's den. That there is some other power sealed within the mystical realm itself. As Shirkei wonders, Farnes runs up stating she was moved by her. And Evalaria says, "This woman is kind of scaring her now." However, as the group continues to move, there's a loud thump and everyone turns back to see Guts has collapsed. Ishidoro shouts asking, "I thought Shirkei healed him back there." And Shirkei looks at his body stating that his wounds are healed, but then says the flesh is healed, but his ethereal body still has wounds. If left alone, they will deteriorate from the inside and his wounds on the outside will reopen. They must hurry back and get medicine. Guts then picks himself back up, telling them, "This is fine. I just got a little lightheaded for a moment." While everyone begins to tell Guts to take it easy, Shirkei watches, stating normally, with these types of wounds, he wouldn't be able to breathe. So what exactly happened down there? These wounds are not something a troll could give. Guts listens as Shirkei talks to him through his mind, and then she mentions that even the seal on his neck has faded. Guts tells her that he took down a monster pretending to be an angel with a single strike from his sword. And Shirkei then sees the shadow of Slan, asking, "Did that really happen?" That energy that she felt? While Shirkei follows closely behind, she remembers Flora telling her not to be focused on just one thing. What she should be looking at is the fact that he is still alive. As everyone gets closer to the barrier, Shirkei feels a strange energy flow coming from the mansion. And not only that, but the seal around the forest is gone as well. Guts tells Farnes to watch over Casca, and Serpico asks if it's the trolls again. The brand at his neck begins to bleed, and he says that there is something really dangerous at that mansion. Much worse than the trolls. It's them. Smoke begins to fill the air, and as everyone arrives in the mansion, they all see it's been set ablaze. Shirkei calls out the floor, running towards the house, and Guts sees something. He sees apostles. He grits his teeth as he runs in dragging his sword, and then he cuts it down to the first monster he comes in contact with. The demon looks at the blade lodged in his shoulder and he asks, "Where did you come from?" And he pulls the blade out, throwing Guts to the ground. The demon then says, "Are you a friend of the witch? Hurts to see this, huh?" Just as the demon laughs, a shadow shoots by, and then the demon's head is split in half. Guts looks back to see the Skull Knight asking, "What are you doing here?" The Skull Knight tells him, "It is because my fate is deeply woven to the owner of this mansion." The demons shout asking, "Who the hell is this guy?" And the Skull Knight tells him, "I have no name to give apostles like you. Let me just say this though, I hate messengers of the five." The demons look closer and then one says, "I remember. This guy was there when our master was born, and the other guy was the master's sacrifice." Guts stares, thinking that there's only one person that they could be talking about. It's Griffith. Through the crowds, a demon, a voice bellows out stating, "I didn't think that I would find you in a place like this. Could it be fate?" Then Guts sees him. Zod. Guts asks, "Your master can't really be." And Zod grins, telling him, "You already know the answer to that. There is only one in this world with whom I will serve." However, before the two could continue, another voice cuts through the crowd stating that he would appreciate it if he could be this one's opponent. Guts looks at the giant man and Zod tells Grumbeld, "Very well." Grumbeld looks at Guts and he says, I've heard rumors about him. While having a human body, he has the strength to survive the eclipse. Though I care not for attacking an old woman who's retired to this place with so many soldiers, I have taken on this mission in hopes of meeting the struggler. So I, Grunbeld, soldier of the Band of the Hawk, wish to challenge the Black Swordsman to a one-on-one duel. While Grunbeld readies himself, Guts pauses asking, "What did you say? Band of the Hawk?" Shirkei tries to call out to Flora inside of the house again, and as Ishidora runs in, he bumps into Shirkei asking, "Why the hell aren't you using your magic?" She begins to cry, stating, "I can't! My heart is confused! I can't use spells like this!" Serpico runs into the mansion, telling the two of them, "You need to get out." But while Shirkei is dragged out, he calls to Flora one last time, and then Flora responds, telling Shirkei, "Listen carefully." And an image of a set of armor appears in Shirkei's mind, and Flora tells her, "Take that to the Black Swordsman." Shirkei shouts no, she can't, and Flora tells her a terrifying enemy approaches. At this rate, there is little time for the Black Swordsman. The flames continue to rise, and Flora says that the time has come, and Shirkei says, "No, not like this." And Flora says that you should know that it is not the end for the magic users, just simply a change in the way that our lives are led. Shirkei begins to cry, telling her, "I know, but I'll be lonely. All those times sleeping out of the sun, having tea in the afternoon with the golem, it'll all be gone." With Guts, Grunbeld holds up his giant warhammer and he slams it onto Guts as he tries to defend. Though the hit struck Guts' sword, the force of the blow launches him across the field. He coughs up blood as he lands, stating, "That hit. It felt like getting hit by a cannonball, and he's still only in his human form." He grabs his sword, swinging, shouting, "Who the hell do you think you are, calling yourselves the Band of the Hawk?" Grunbeld takes his shield and he thrusts it forward, smacking into Guts, knocking him to the ground. Before Guts can get back up, he holds his sword out as Grunbeld swings back down, crushing Guts under his own sword. He rolls away trying to recover, and Grunbeld says, "That's a nice sword. It took 2 hits from my warhammer and it didn't break. However, the swordsmanship leaves much to be desired." Guts struggles getting up with a few cracked ribs, and also no armor on, and he can feel his wounds opening up on his back. With the duel of Guts and Grunbeld going on, one of the demons says that they should probably go get the witch's head. And as he finishes his sentence, the demon's head flies off and the Skull Knight says, "That will not happen." All of the demons begin to surround the Skull Knight, and Zod tells them all, "Move! This opponent is mine." Zod reaches down, changing form, squeezing down on the demon's head, telling him, "I don't care if it's burnt, go get the witch's head." Over in the mansion, the demons start to make their way in, and they spot Shirkei and the others. The demon says that if they don't want to die, tell him the location of the witch. Shirkei holds out her hand, blowing on strands of hair, and as the hair floats out, it shoots into the demon's neck, bursting into flames. Seeing it have no effect, she tells everyone that they have to hurry to the treasure room. There is something that she needs to give Guts. As everyone steps into the treasure room, Ishidoro asks, what would be in there that would need that many protective seals on the door? And Shirkei tells him an item that her master put the sign on is a cursed item. Very strong and dangerous cursed item. It is the Berserker armor. Back outside, Guts continues to try and protect himself from Grunbeld's massive blows, but no matter how hard he tries, he's knocked to the ground. As the last one hits, Grunbeld steps on Guts, pushing harder and harder onto his chest. Grunbeld shouts, "Pathetic! Are you truly the Black Swordsman who struck down countless apostles, even traded hits with Zod?" Guts struggles to even breathe, and Grunbeld stomps down, shouting to Guts, "Answer me!" He looks over at Zod and the Skull Knight fighting, and he says, Zod is indeed lucky to be fighting such a strong opponent. As Guts looks up, he grins, telling him, "Monsters really shouldn't pretend to be warriors." Grunbeld digs his foot in and he kicks Guts out onto the field, telling him, "You are not fit to be destroyed by my warhammer. Instead, you will fall to the flames of my shield." Then Grunbeld holds out his shield, showing the mouth on it, and it shoots out a fiery blast. As the fireball hits, the smoke begins to clear, and both Guts and Grunbeld see the golems have blocked the shot. They begin to meld into one, and they create one larger golem, one that's larger than even Grunbeld's. Shirkei then contacts Guts, telling him that he needs to come inside. There's something waiting for him. He asks, "What could I need?" And then an image of the Berserker armor flashes in his eyes. Grunbeld reloads the cannon on his shield and he blasts into the golems while Guts makes his escape into the treasure room. Guts' body flies into the room and Ishidora asks, "What are we going to do? That armor isn't going to help him now." Shirkei tries to heal some of his new wounds and thinks Ishidora is right. If he puts on the armor, it could mean his life. But before long, the door to the room begins to get broken down as the apostles climb in. Shirkei gets up, stating that she has to use her magic. This is all her fault. And then she begins to feel a tug at her arm. She looks down to see Guts and then decides to help him up. Everyone begins to put pieces of the Berserker armor onto Guts, and as the apostles break in, Guts knocks Ishidora out of his way. The apostles lunge at him just as he stands up in his new armor. Back outside, Grunbeld stands over the burning bodies of the golems, shouting, "These are just worthless tricks. Where is the Black Swordsman hiding?" Just then the cries of the apostle could be heard as they are running out of the mansion. Grumbeld looks at the apostle and the apostle shouts, "It hurts! We ate him and he should be dead, but..." Before the apostle could finish the sentence, the Dragon Slayer's sword shoots out of his head and tears down. The sword moves as if it's slicing water, and then the body parts of the apostles fly everywhere. Everyone looks and sees Guts standing there in the black Berserker armor. Another demon runs up, biting down on Guts, but even without shifting his body, Guts swings upwards on his sword, cutting the demon in half as the sword slices over his head. The hollow stare of Guts looks out at the others and the blood begins to rain down onto him. Ishidori shouts, "That was amazing! Why didn't we just give him that in the beginning?" And Shirke says that it is not a gift to be given lightly. Grumbeld watches Guts' movement, stating that it looks like he's a whole different person, but he's still carrying that sword. The battle between the Skull Knight and Zod stop, and as he looks at Guts, he then looks back at the Skull Knight. Zod's eyes widen and he asks, "You didn't plan on making him walk the same path as you. Follow your footsteps straight to hell." Inside the armor, Guts asks what's going on. The moment the armor was on, the pain disappeared like it was never there. No, this is something else. There is something savage melting into him, and with this, there is nothing that he has to worry about. He can completely cut loose the monster within him. Guts begins to yell and the armor begins to change its shape, and then Guts screams as the helmet shows the face of the Beast of Darkness. Grumbeld watches, stating, "This is interesting. Is this his real power?" Guts charges forward, jumping onto Grunbeld's shield, forcing him to block but pushing him back. And as he lands, Grumbeld asks, "How could you have knocked away my massive body?" Guts jumps back into the air, and in a flash, he's already clashing down on Grunbeld's shield again. Guts pushes himself into the air, and he begins to spin, screaming, and then he slams back down onto the shield, shattering it. Grumbeld shouts, asking, "How? I can repel cannonballs, and you just smashed it." As Guts rapidly jumps in attacking, Grumbeld says, "Those types of movements should be possible wearing that armor and wielding that sword. Not for a human. It's not even possible to move like that." He begins to fire his cannon again, and as Guts reaches down into the opening, he drops the fake arm and he fires his own cannon into it. The rest of the shield falls to pieces, and Guts jumps back ready to strike. The others watch in awe, and Ishidori asks, "What were you saying about Guts a little while ago?" And Shirke tells him that Guts' wounds have not healed. At this moment, he doesn't even feel their pain. The Berserker armor is something that the dwarves created. It gives the wearer limitless strength as it feeds off the violent emotions that the wearer has. Though it will also make the wearer forget about things like pain and fear, it can drive the person insane. It can make the person exceed the limits of the human body. In return for its strength, it will endanger one's life. Blood begins to drop as Guts clutches his sword. And as he gets up, the wounds on his physical body bleed, dripping out from every one of the openings in the armor. But the blood doesn't stop Guts as he stands up breathing and panting, ready for more. And that concludes chapters 222 to 226 of Berserk. If you really like this story, please consider subscribing. It really does help us. And don't forget, we'll see you next week right here.